Tonight is going to be our final night in the Book of Proverbs for a while. Lord willing, next week, as the new quarter begins, we're going to begin looking in the book of Ephesians. So if you want to read that good book, you can be ready as we get ready for that class, Lord willing, next Wednesday evening. But I have enjoyed so very much our study in the book of Proverbs as we've looked at it more in a topical way. And we've been able to talk about a lot of things that the book of Proverbs deals with. Tonight we're going to talk about what it says about the rearing of children. But we've been able to see what advice is given to us, what wisdom is given when it comes to things like marriage and dealing with money, when it comes to the idea of laziness and anger, or alcohol and gluttony. We've been able to see what is taught to us about anger, about friendship, and about a multitude of things as we look at the book of Proverbs. And so I hope that it's been very beneficial to us, helpful to us, and I know that as you read these things and we commit those verses to heart, they're just going to help us more and more. Our memory verse from a couple of weeks ago was from Proverbs 18 and verse 22 when we were talking about marriage. And it said, "Whoso findeth what? Findeth a wife, findeth a good thing, and obtaineth favor of the Lord." All right? So that was from a couple of weeks ago. Remember that key verse, our theme verse, Proverbs 4 and verse 7. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. Okay? So commit those things to memory. Even do it on your own. Verses that stand out. We didn't have time to look at all the things that are there, but they will just help you as you go through your day. They'll let you know the way that God wants us to live, how He wants us to conduct ourselves, the people that He wants us to be, and we will be far, far better people if we will put into practice the things that are there in the book of Proverbs. Let's see tonight some of the things that the writer tells us about the rearing of children. And I want to start out by telling you, I am no expert. I have a son that's here, and so I can't even pretend to be an expert because he can tell you different. We all are trying to do our very best. At least I hope that's what our effort is. And we, I hope, as Christians, have the desire that Hannah had so many years ago. Remember when she was given a son, and that son was Samuel. Her promise to God was, if you give me a child, a male child, I will give him back to you. And I hope that that's the goal of every parent. You bless us with children, we're going to do everything that we can to lead them back to you. I realize that children are people and they have a mind of their own. And soon enough, they are making their own decisions. And tragically, sometimes they don't choose to go in the way of the Lord, in spite of our best efforts. But our goal as parents is to do the best that we can. You know, when Father's Day comes around, it is very difficult to just pick an example from the Bible of the perfect father. Because when you start talking about one, it's not too long until there's some flaw that we're told about in Scripture. Not to say that they weren't great men, but they made mistakes even as a parent. You think of someone like Abraham. Abraham must have been a great father, but did he make a mistake? Yeah, he showed partiality among his children. That is not a good thing to do. All right? David was a great, great man. Solomon, who writes much of this, knew a great deal about being a father, but did they make mistakes? Yeah, they did. They did. And so I suppose, I know that the perfect example of a father is our Heavenly Father. And we want to imitate Him as much as we can. But it's difficult. And so I want you to know right up front, I am not the expert on this. I've always heard that you need to give all your advice about rearing children before you have any. Because then you know everything. But it's not an easy thing at all. Let's look at a couple of things that we see, a couple signs that I came across. It says, first of all, there is no job more important than parenting. And I think that's true. It is a great, great challenge, and so very important. It's important to society, but think about how important it is to the Lord's church. Then you look at this. Each day of our lives, we make deposits in the memory banks of our children. I remember reading one time about a fella who was on Abraham Lincoln's cabinet. I don't remember his name. But his wife encouraged him to go fishing with his son one day, to take a day off and to go fishing. And in his journal, he wrote, "Had to go fishing with my son. Worst day ever." His son had a journal, and when he wrote, it said, "Went fishing with Dad. Best day ever." Dads, that ought to tell us something. It's not a waste of time when we're with our children. Make those deposits in the memory banks of your children. Then, I like this one. The way we talk to our children becomes their inner voice. I remember hearing a country song not long ago. It said, I hear voices all the time. And they were the voices of grandparents and parents telling this person, the best things to do in life. And our children are going to hear our voice throughout their life. And we want it to be leading them in the right way. Now, when it comes to the rearing of children and the book of Proverbs, the verse that probably comes to mind first and foremost is Proverbs 22 and verse 6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. A lot of people have been beaten over the head with this verse, I think, and have been made to feel awful. Have been made to feel like surely there was something else you could have done, or you must have done something because your child didn't turn out the way that you hoped that they would. And so, it's your fault. Well, folks, I don't believe that's the case at all. When someone has done their very best and a child still turns away from their good upbringing, it's not the parent's fault anymore. Let me give you a good example. Turn over to Isaiah chapter 1, and let's look at verse 2. Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 2. And we just mentioned a moment ago the perfect example of a father. That's our God. Notice what Isaiah is told to write. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord hath spoken. I have nourished and brought up children. Folks, you can't have a better father than God. You can't have more encouragement than what God can give. You can't have a better example to follow. God says, I have raised up children, and they have rebelled against me. And folks, if people can rebel against God, can they rebel against the instruction given by godly parents? Absolutely they can. Absolutely. And so the Bible is not trying to beat or make someone feel awful because a child didn't turn out the way that we hoped that they would. There is this thing. We love it for ourselves. We don't like it for everybody else. Free will. I like being able to choose for me. It's hard sometimes for me to like what other people choose. because they don't choose what I would. And I don't know why they wouldn't choose what I want. Surely that's the best way, right? But, that's hard on us. You think about choosing a spouse. Any of you guys like to have chosen a spouse for your children? Think you could have done a better job? Well, I know you're not going to, and if they're in here, you're not going to say anything. But probably at the time you might have thought, man, I'd like to get my daughter away from that fella. Now, once grandchildren come, it's incredible how this guy that wasn't good enough for my daughter is the father of these wonderful grandchildren. But, we probably thought, maybe I could have done better, made a better match. How would you have liked someone to do that for you? No way. No way. I don't want my mom and dad. So, they might pick someone that's just like them, or something like that. And so we don't like it. But as long as people have free will, and that includes our children, they're going to have an opportunity, if they so choose, to go against God and to go against His way. Now, what we always have to know about free will and a free choice is that, yes, you have that opportunity to choose. But you can't choose one thing and not accept the consequences. There are consequences that come with every choice, both good and bad. So you can choose whatever way. God's going to let you choose the way you want to go. But just know there are consequences. You choose His way, you get heaven. You choose to go away from Him, and the only thing waiting is that eternal punishment. And so we have free choice. But we want to do everything that we can to train up our children. There's a couple ideas here I want us to think about before we go on. One man wrote, combining both of the ideas suggested above, the passage seems to be saying that when godly parents determine that they will rear their children for the service of God, not as a mere appendage of life, but in passionate service, and when they are wise enough to do that training in harmony with the child's unique personality, and every parent with more than one child acknowledges sibling individuality. That generally will prove to be the case, that the child will remain faithful to his trainer. Not always, but generally. Now again, you look at this, train up a child in the way that he should go. That phraseology, in the way that he should go. The idea that is given is that there is a way in which that child is going. Every individual child is different. Don't you see that when you deal with children? I had this idea before I had children that whatever comes out, you just take that and if you do enough work and enough shaping and enough molding, you get exactly what you wanted. They're just like clay, and you mold them, and you know what? It didn't take long after that first one got here till I realized he came with a personality. I was going to shape that. But Tammy and I were going to mold that. We were going to give him his personality. He had it. And it's so, we like certain things. We dislike other things. We're good at some things. We're not so good at others. And everybody is different. Does God need everyone? Absolutely. Absolutely. So you train them in the way that, here's one who is good at working with his hands. Here's one who is really good at, he's a brainiac, he's really good with this. And this one's good with music. This one's an athlete. This one, but we're all different. But we can all be led to Christ and serve Him with those abilities. All right? Now, let's go on and notice another idea that is given here. Proverbs 6, Verse 20 to 23. The wise man says, "My son, keep thy father's commandment, and forsake not the law of thy mother. Bind them continually upon thy heart, and tie them about thy neck. When thou goest, it shall lead thee. When thou sleepest, it shall keep thee. And when thou awakest, it shall talk with thee. For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life." Leading them, teaching them, letting your voice always be with them. I talked about that earlier when we were looking at those signs. Now, our families face a lot of problems. And rearing children is a great, great challenge because of some of these problems in our world today. Let me give you just a few. Number one, absent fathers. Fathers, how much time do we get to spend with our children? We get up early, we go to work, we work hard, we may be working 2 jobs, or we're working overtime, and we're trying to provide for our family. We get home. How much time do we get to spend with the kids? You know, a lot of times it might be just a little bit in the morning, if that, and then late at night we're fussing to get them into bed. And then to start all over again. Then you've got substitute mothers. We've got a lot of children that are being reared not by mothers, but by the people at the daycare or at school or wherever else it may be, and not by their mother because she's working, or maybe she has to work, and so it becomes very and they're not going to teach the values that you want them to teach, Christian. Not always, anyway. It's hard to do. Find someone that will do that. You go to a daycare, they're not really concerned about teaching. They're just concerned about getting through that day, no trips to the emergency room. You know, you brought your kid, here he is, same shape you brought him. See you tomorrow. That'll be, I don't know how much, but whatever, you know. That's now, again, I'm sure that there are good people that work in places, but because of the folks that they have, the numbers they have to care for, and the demands that are on them, it gets really, really tough. Then you've got educational influences. How many of us believe that our public school system is trying to teach Christian values to our children? If you've got a teacher that is a Christian, what a blessing. But there are many who are not. And then they're going to bombard them with their values. The principal, where my wife is a teacher, is a homosexual. And I don't know how many others are there at the school, but I'm sure that's not uncommon. No, it wasn't uncommon in New Philadelphia. And I can't imagine that Grove City or Columbus or wherever we may live is much different. And so you've got that. Then you've got, even when we are home, everybody's home, we're still at home alone. Because we've got 5 televisions and everybody's watching their own. And if we're not doing that, everybody's on the phone or on the video game. And we're still not together, even when we are at home. And then you've got the effects of divorce in our world upon children. And you've got crowded schedules where our kids are into everything. You know, folks who are here that are 60 and 70 years old, organized sports, that was just something you did occasionally. It's more common just go to the playground or the sandlot and you'd have pickup games, you know, and you'd play and do this or that. But now, I mean, everybody thinks that their kid is going to be the next Michael Jordan, right? And they've got a pro career all lined out for them. And so we got to go to, not to this game, we got to be on a travel team, and then we got to be at these camps, and then we're switching seasons just like this, and we're going into this next one. And I mean, you've got a schedule that I don't think anybody could keep. Driving hundreds of miles to just go and play a ball game. And so there are a lot of issues and difficulties that we as parents are facing. Look at this next passage. Proverbs 4 and verse 11. I have taught thee in the way of wisdom. I have led thee in the right paths. We need to teach them the right way. What's Ephesians 6 and verse 4 tell fathers? Provoke not your children to wrath, but what? Bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. That's the goal. Lead our children to be followers of Christ. Teach them right. I want to share with you 3 things that can help our children today and that they need. Number 1, we need to teach our children to reason, to use logic. There's this thing that is called common sense. It's not very common in our world. But our children aren't being taught to reason. They're taught a lot of facts, and that's how you pass a test. You learn this sheet of facts, and then you go in and you can give those facts back to the teacher, and then after that, you don't have to remember them anymore. You just got the grade and you can go on. And even in college, that's what a college class consists of this most of the time. You read the book, read the chapter, we'll test you on the chapter. Teacher didn't make up the test. The people who wrote the book made it up. And you take the test, they'll grade it, and we'll go on to the next chapter. And that's it. I had a college class not long ago, and I thought, this teacher is amazing. I couldn't believe the PowerPoints that he had made. They were incredible. And then I looked at the book. They were the pictures from the book. He didn't make them up. They came with the syllabus and everything. They came with the whole system. He didn't do it. And so, that's education. Teach them to reason. What are the implications of these things? Number 2, let them know their origin. You know the world is going to try and teach them different. You need to teach them. I thought we were going to break into Jurassic Park here or something. But, the world's going to, and that's a good example, by the way. The world's going to get its ideas out. I'm sure a lot of you like movies. Boy, aren't movies something today? It's not just for, they want to get a message across. We got to save this planet, folks. So from now on, no more plastic straws. All right? We'll save the planet that way. Okay? Well, that's a big message. And our kids are buying it. They are buying it. They're going to be taught. First day, they go to the library. Those kindergarten kids, they've been told by the ones up above, go to the section. It's over here. It's where the dinosaur books are. And you take that and they open it up, and 70 million years ago, the dinosaurs were roaming this, and they buy it. They don't even have to read a book. You think, oh, it's okay, they're watching Disney. Hey, folks, that message is being taught everywhere. From the time they can set up in front of a TV, the world is going to bombard them with these worldly ideas. We need to be vigilant in teaching them the truth of where we came from. It makes such a difference in how you live your life. But not just tell them, show them, give them the evidence. And we need to teach them to revere the Bible. And again, you show them why we know this is God's Word. You look at something like predictive prophecy. or scientific foreknowledge. And you show that to them, and you let them be excited about this book that God has given unto us. You show them the unity that is there and all these wonderful attributes, so that their faith isn't just based on, that's what Mom and Dad said. They can see it and they're learning it, so that they can walk in wisdom and integrity. All right, look in Proverbs 20 and verse 7. The just man walketh in his integrity. His children are blessed after him. What is he telling us? You be an example to your children. How powerful that needs to be. Again, my son, give me thine heart, and let thine eyes observe my ways. You can't be a parent who says, you do what I say, don't you do what I do. Because what you do speaks much, much louder. Look at this one. Proverbs 3 and verse 27. Withhold not good from them to whom it is due, when it is in the power of thine hand to do it. Changing subjects a little bit, but I know we're talking about our children. Praise them. What's the last praiseworthy thing that you said to your children? The world beats them up enough. When you can praise them, you do that. Remember, I know this probably isn't the best example because he's in jail now, but do you remember Bill Cosby? All right? You know, he was a pretty funny dude, right? All right? Well, I remember hearing him one time talk about his dad, and he was talking about growing up, and I don't remember how the little shtick went, but I know he said something like this: until I was 6 years old, I thought my name was Dummy. Because all the time his dad was saying, hey, dummy, what do you think you're doing? You know, he thought that was his name. Wonder how many kids think that way. Now, I know that's an extreme thing. They wouldn't think that's their name, but they haven't had anything nice said to them by their parents. All they ever get is in trouble. They know when they're in trouble. And I know that we might say, well, my dad never praised me. You know, if you did it right, that's the way you're supposed to do it. You don't deserve any praise. But if you do it wrong, you get out of line, then you're going to hear from me. Okay, I understand that. And when they get out of line, they need to hear from us. But they need that praise too. Our children, and I think this is part of what is said in Ephesians 6 and verse 4, where he says, provoke them not to wrath. Our children have a spirit. Don't break that spirit. Don't break that will. Encourage them. Let them know you are their biggest supporter. This embarrassed me to death when I was in high school, but my mom and dad and my sister would come to basketball games with shirts on that say, I'm Four's biggest fan. I wanted to change uniforms with someone, you know. But, you know, that they were in my corner. And of course, it didn't help much when I'd hear them say, put 4 in, because I was on the bench, you know. But anyway, but our kids need to know we're going to support them and we're going to praise them. Don't withhold good when it's in your power to do it. Now, I know that's talking about you pay someone when they've worked for you, all right? But how about paying a compliment? Encouraging your children. Proverbs 18 verse 13. He that answereth a matter before he heareth it, it is a folly and shame unto him. And I just bring that to our attention as far as rearing children. Again, this is just a general verse, and it applies to every situation. But how about parenting? Are we really good at listening to our children? Do we give them a chance to explain themselves? Or are we really good at jumping to conclusions? I know why you did that. You know, we need to realize something about children. They are not little adults. Their minds don't work the way that ours do. That reasoning stuff, they're not really good at it. Now they'll get there. We give them some help, but you ask them, why'd you do that? They may really not know. Now that doesn't work for us. You know, when we say, I don't know why. I don't know. Well, you know. You just don't want to admit it. But kids, they don't know. We had a birthday party last night, and Ella was over there. And not Ella, Evelyn was over there, and my granddaughter Jordan's there. Well, Jordan's 3. Evelyn's just now getting up on her feet. She could not walk a straight line if her life depended. I mean, she is everywhere, you know, weebles, wobble, and all that. And all Jordan wants to do is get her to go faster, you know, and to hug her and, you know, hold her. And of course, anytime you bump her, she's going to fall. And of course, she did that a few times, you know. And you think, why are you doing that? Because she's 3. That's why she's doing it. That's what 3-year-olds do. Do they need to learn to do better? Yeah, because it can hurt the little one. You know, you're a little bigger, but they're different. They're different. And so we want to listen to our children. Really listen to them. They've got things to say. And then Proverbs 19 and verse 11, the discretion of a man deferreth his anger, and it is his glory to pass over a transgression. I think that's another little piece of wisdom for parents. If you can pass over a small infraction or a fault, do it. You got to pick your battles, right? And there are some things they're not worth all the effort you put into them. Is someone going to die if they don't eat all the peas on their plate? They're not. They are not. Now, I know everybody is different, all right? And I'm not trying to, again, try to tell you that I know best about parenting and that kind of thing. Maybe that is the best battle. I don't know. I don't eat all my peas. You know, there's some food you put on my plate, I'm not going to eat all of it. And so, you know, pick your battle. Now, that may not be the best example for you. I don't know. All right? Now, what are you talking about? What battles are worth standing your ground and when there's willful defiance? That's a battle. I don't know what the situation may be, but when you know, well, just when you see that's when you have to put your foot down, because you want to teach them that they need to obey. But when you can look over a fault, little things. Now, again, maybe if we do that, then they become big things. I don't know. I'm not perfect at this. But I'm just telling you, pick your battles as a parent. All right. Next, Proverbs 18 and verse 21. To have respect of persons is not good, for a piece of bread that man will transgress. Don't have favorites among your kids. If you got more than one, don't have a favorite. Don't do more for one than you do for another. Let them know you love them both as much as you possibly can. And you've got room in your heart for both of them or all of them. If you've got 10, for all of them. But don't, even if you have a favorite, don't let anybody else know. All right? You don't let anyone know. Don't be partial. Then look at this. A sound heart is the life of the flesh, but envy the rottenness of the bones. There's a danger here, parents. Don't become envious of other people's kids. Wish I had a kid that could play ball like that. Wish I had a girl that could sing like that. Wish I had a son that looked like that. Don't play that game. Don't. You have been blessed with the children that you have, and they are precious. Don't become envious of others. And besides that, you don't know what that person is going to turn out to be. Okay, so what if your kid can't catch a fly ball? That kid that catches the fly ball might end up catching him for the prison team. All right? And your kid is a faithful Christian. Which one you want? Don't be envious of other people's kids. And then Proverbs 3 and verse 12, you get into, and this is probably something that we think about when we think of Proverbs and the instruction that's given there. For whom the Lord loveth, He correcteth, even as a father the son in whom He delighteth. That's part of being a parent, is what we call discipline. Correction being given. And the Bible talks about it often. Proverbs 13:24, He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. Proverbs 19:18, Chasten thy son while there is hope, and let not thy soul spare for his crying. Proverbs 22:15, Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him. Proverbs 23:13, Withhold not correction from thy child, for if thou beatest him with the rod, he shall not die. Thou shalt beat him with the rod, and shalt deliver his soul from death, or from hell. Proverbs 29:15, The rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself bringeth his mother to shame. Somebody says, well, boy, preacher, it sounds like you're for that corporal punishment. I didn't say anything yet. All I read was what the Bible said. All right? Do I believe that corporal punishment has a place? I do. I do. I believe that God has made the perfect place to receive that instruction. It is a place on the body where it will sting, but not hurt, not damage. We're not to hurt a child. But a swat on the bottom can give good instruction. Now, as children get older, I believe that we need to find other ways to discipline and punish. And they will be more educational. When I was in high school, I remember, I'm overtime. Can I go on just a couple minutes? All right. When I was in high school, I got in trouble one time. Wasn't a big deal. I was talking in class. Imagine that. But anyway, the teacher had this, he placed us under martial law. And so whatever he said went. And so when he caught me talking in class, he said, you got a choice. You can pay $1. I didn't have $1. He said, you can write 100 times, I will not talk in class. I didn't want to do that. Or you could take a swat. I took the swat. It is over like that. Didn't teach me anything. You know, when kids get older, that doesn't bother them. I remember the last time my mom spanked me. I turned around and said, really? That was a big mistake because Dad was coming home. But, you know, but is there a place for it? Yes, there is. But done in the way that the Scriptures teach. All right. Great information given to us throughout Proverbs about every aspect of our lives. So keep reading and keep growing in our wisdom. Next week, Lord willing, Book of Ephesians. We'll get started. Thank you so much.